Another great comedian, and he did lots of other things too, but he was really a great comedian, able to create various characters. Jackie Gleason, I assume most of you have heard of him and probably know him from The Honeymooners, but he had a lot of other characters that he created in his act, and one of them was called the Poor Soul, who was this kind of schlemiel character who bad always happened to him. He was always out of a job, and women hated him, and dogs peed on his leg, and everything went wrong in his life. And this particular, he had a kind of a signature take he would do too. The Poor Soul take was Gleason was very fat, and he would accentuate his fatness by putting on clothes that were too tight for him and walking kind of like a guy who'd been whipped. And when he would really get down, he would go, the Poor Soul take, a little child sort of thing that he would do. And this particular bit that I'm talking about is something that's been done by a number of comedians. It's the pie factory gag, where the chump gets a job in a pie factory, and the job is to put cream pies in boxes, and they're on an assembly line. And Lucille Ball has a famous version of this too, but this was the Poor Soul's version of the pie trick. There's something terrifying about it was supposed to be really funny, and people laugh like crazy, but to see someone who's thrown things okay for a while, and then faster and faster till they're overwhelmed and pretty much destroyed by, people die like that a lot. You lose one organ, then another organ, or the assembly line, the American Nightmare, the assembly line that goes faster and faster until people go nuts, which they still do sometimes. The guy that shows up for work with a gun and shoots everybody with a white shirt on. Tony's husband and I worked in a place where they had the assembly lines, and it would the assembly line would break down, and there would be a big cheer that would go up all over the place. Breakdown! Okay. The gag, this is called. Here's the setup. Gleason is the Poor Soul, kind of sad-sack Pillsbury doughboy. Lands a job putting cream pies into boxes as they arrive on a conveyor belt through a hole in the wall of an empty white room. Pick up pie, box it, stack it, next pie. Simple enough, but where are all the other workers? And why no labels on the boxes? Did he see something like this on candid camera? Anyway, he pitches in, and he does okay. He likes the friendly predictability, the bakery smell, how the clean white apron feels as the pies line up like little troopers. The Washington Post march fans out from the back of his scalp to his forehead and hands. The command, "Eyes right," comes to mind. When he looks in that direction, the conveyor belt's little electric motors whisper, "Vocation." Maybe he could learn to drive, buy his clothes at a big man's store, get married. His jowls feel like they're firming, growing angular. Only here's the thing, the belt speeds up. Not much at first, so he thinks it's just a momentary lapse of concentration, a result of overconfidence. So he focuses, tries to think at least 2 pies ahead, and things go back in sync, though there's this pressure now. Then the belt goes even faster. This time, the pies start backing up. He has to switch techniques, try to box one pie with his right hand while he blocks the rest with his left. Sweat's getting in his eyes and on his apron. If there's a stop button, nobody told him about it. When he drops his first pie, you see this little squint of recognition. But there's no time to stop and figure out what's suddenly so damn familiar about all this. The pies are climbing up on each other like sex-crazed turtles. Some begin to slide off onto the floor, one landing square on his shoes as if somebody actually aimed it and splurting up his pant leg. That's it. He does the Poor Soul take. a mock-up of that bitsy cherub mope that used to make the grown-ups deliver an "aww." But there's a big difference between baby fat and fat fat. Besides, the system operates by the bottom line, which is that the pies are now being catapulted into the wall behind him, splattering like a swarm of locusts on a windshield, while the poor soul dodges right, then left, and his fat boy hands try to hide inside each other. But now look, the belt slowed back to normal, and here comes the foreman. The poor soul tries to explain, demonstrate, but he can hardly work his arms, and the electric motors, their bearing shot, drown him out with a smoky yammering. He gets the quick heave-ho, shuffling his sorry dough legs out the back door. As we have a good laugh, the theme, played by Miami Beach's own Sammy Spear and his famous orchestra, rises in our fat boy throats. I'm a big fan of Buster Keaton, and have been for a long time. I hope most of you know who he is, a silent comedian, one of the truly great silent comedians. And unfortunately, when sound came in, things went kind of downhill for him. This is sort of the other side of comedy. There is that sort of magical supernatural quality almost of the world that the comedian can create. And this poem is entitled Saint's Life, because I'm sort of treating the comedian as a saint here, or a saint figure. Buster Keaton, you may know, was famous for his acrobatic stunts. He did all his own stunts, and they were very dangerous but very funny. And of course, the more it looked like he was hurt, the funnier it was. You know, the way he could fall in a way that looked like it really hurt him, and that was much funnier than somebody who just trips and falls over. So there's another sort of index into things. You need to know that his parents for this poem, his parents were named George and Myra, and there was an actual experience that is in his biography, written by a guy named Rudy Blesch, that Keaton, when he was a little boy, was in vaudeville and in his parents' act, and what his job was to be thrown around by them. He was dressed up like a little man, about 8 years old, with a suit on and everything, and his parents would fling him about the stage, and everybody would laugh like crazy. And he found out that they would laugh more if he didn't smile or anything. He kept a deadpan, so he was very famous for his deadpan after a while. And one day they left him in the rooming house that they were staying in somewhere in Kansas, and a cyclone came along and sucked little guy out the window. And he landed 4 blocks away in a wind current that sort of gently dropped into the ground. He was unhurt. And so there's sort of this miraculous event in his life, and his parents were terrified, but there he was. So with all that prelude, I will get to this. Saint's Life. Let's face it, classmates, face the gift for being too amazed, too curious to be afraid when a pasture full of shit hits the fan. When the huge blind finger on the horizon finds your house and flicks you out an upstairs window. Think of little Buster, windborne, descending like a kite 4 blocks away, bemused by Joe and Myra's cries. Now, when his life flickers miraculously before us, we fly with him reel to reel in a dream of ourselves, blessed survivors in a world where nothing works, where everything sooner or later breaks, clogs, goes kerflooey. We show the immortal deadpan all staring and cheekbones. As the house falls, the boat sinks, the Lizzie dies on the tracks. Sure, we'll think of something before time runs out, or discover the whole thing's a bluff we can call by simply standing still. The wall crashes harmlessly around us. The boat rises on a submarine. The train switches tracks and blusters off. Dressed in solemn oaths, Our faults and stewings chase us through the streets, waving their billies, too fat, too dumb, too choked with rage to ever beat us to the next corner, the next unreeling, where the anarchist bomb serves only to light our cigarette. The secret is not to break the face's holy silence, not to laugh, not even lift an eyebrow. It gives us away, spoils the gag, wakes us in midair. Thank you.